Peer relationships in childhood and adolescence. Peers are individuals of about the same age or maturity level. Being around peers helps children to have a point of comparison for themselves, which is harder to do with siblings since siblings are usually older or younger. How people interact with peers is influenced by context. So people might act differently with a peer depending on whether it's an acquaintance, a best friend, or a romantic partner. They might interact differently with a peer at a sporting event versus at a religious service. And they interact differently with these different contexts. People are more like, as they do that, people are more likely to encounter different messages and different opportunities to engage in adaptive or maladaptive behaviors that can influence their development. So basically, as we encounter different people in different settings, we, you know, we interact with them in different ways, and that just kind of creates a more varied experience for us socially, which is very important, especially when we're children, learning how to behave around people. Children's social cognition about their peers becomes increasingly important for understanding peer relationships in middle and late childhood. There are steps that we go through when processing information about our social world. So first, we selectively attend to social cues. This is simply being on the lookout for signs of what others are thinking or feeling. Another step is attributing intent. So, for example, aggressive boys are more likely to perceive ambiguous behavior as hostile. Like if someone bumps into them, they're more likely to respond quickly and without reflecting, such as immediately shoving them back. Children need to know how to develop and follow scripts, mental scripts, to meet some goal, such as what are some things to say or do if you're trying to make friends. And then they have to remember those scripts, make behavioral choices based on their social knowledge, and then actually put it into practice. And some people are better at doing this than others. Oops. Some children, like I said, engage in this process better or worse than others, and it can affect their peer status. When asking children about the other children in their classroom and asking them who would they want as their best friend and who they don't like, their answers tend to categorize their peers in the following ways. Popular children are the ones that most children said that they wanted as their best friend, and almost nobody actively dislikes them. Average children get kind of a mix of positive and negative votes. Neglected children are the term that we use here for peer statuses of neglected is that they're generally overlooked. Their peers didn't nominate them for best friend status, but nobody seems to really dislike them either. They're kind of invisible to their peers. Rejected children are the ones who almost nobody wanted them for a best friend, and they are actively disliked by most of their peers. And then controversial children are both nominated as a best friend by a lot of peers, but also disliked by a lot of peers. So there's something about them. I guess they're an acquired taste, where you either really like them or you really don't like them. What makes popular children so likable? Well, they tend to have certain social skills. They tend to give out reinforcements like praising others or sharing treats at lunch. They listen carefully to what others are saying and they make people feel heard. They keep open lines of communication so that if you need to talk to them, you feel like you can. They are generally happy, so not grumpy or negative all the time. And even if they are feeling negative, they have good emotional regulation. They don't let those negative emotions get out of control. They show enthusiasm and concern for others, so they're genuinely happy when others succeed and they want to help if they can. And they are self-confident without being conceited. They don't rely on others for their sense of self-worth, but they're also not full of themselves either. Neglected children are typically described as shy. They usually might just need help learning how to attract positive attention from peers and hold that attention by asking questions and saying things that lets their peers know that they understand and can relate. So this might come naturally to popular children, but shy children might need to be like more explicitly taught. Rejected children are more difficult and they often have more serious adjustment problems. They have a hard time controlling their impulses and maintaining attention, so they tend to be disruptive in class and during group play. They're also more emotionally reactive, so they tend to get angrier more easily and they have trouble calming down, which leads to conduct problems and antisocial behavior. And they have fewer social skills in how to make friends or maintain positive relationships. Not all rejected children are aggressive. About 10 to 20% of rejected children are just so shy that they come across as antisocial by their peers. And in all these cases, role play and discussing things with them can be a good way to help train rejected children in the art of social skills. It's important to address social skills because rejected children can easily become either bullies, the victims of bullying, or both. Bullied children report more loneliness and more difficulty making friends, and they often become more anxious, socially withdrawn, and aggressive over time, which can later lead to increased risk of suicidal ideation, eating disorders, and antisocial behavior. And while children were once able to leave bullying behind them when they left school for the day, bullying and harassment on the internet, known as cyberbullying, has now made it so that bullying is now easier to perpetrate and more difficult to escape. There are currently intervention programs being developed to help train students to recognize and intervene in bullying behavior. Gender plays an important role in peer situations. Starting around 3, children start to prefer to play with same gender peers. So girls prefer to play with other girls, boys prefer to play with other boys. Boys tend to associate in larger groups than girls, whereas girls are more likely to play in groups of 2 to 3 people. And boys are more likely to engage in rough and tumble play and competitions, whereas girls are more likely to engage in collaborative talk. Peer groups matter even more in adolescence because adolescents become less and less likely to discuss things with their parents, and they become more susceptible to peer pressure. They're more likely to go along with whatever the group is doing, even if it's something that they would not have considered doing on their own because of its dangerous or illegal nature. So the peer groups that an adolescent hangs out with can be extremely important. Usually, adolescents are part of a clique, which is a small group of peers that tend to hang out regularly. They engage in similar activities and they share ideas. Adolescents are also sometimes part of a larger crowd. They may not necessarily spend much time together, but they share some characteristics or activities such as, quote unquote, jocks or nerds or druggies or whatever. So adolescents become members of these groups based on reputation. And whether we're children or adults, everybody needs some friends. Not just acquaintances that you're friendly towards, but actual friends. Why are friendships important? They do serve a number of functions. First of all, friendship provides companionship, so someone to hang out with and do activities with. Friendship provides stimulation, information, and amusement. I love listening to my son laugh as he chats with his friends. Friends provide us with encouragement, support, and feedback when we need it, to help us remember that we are worthwhile individuals. Friends give us a comparison point to see how we are doing. Maybe you notice that your friend is way better at controlling their temper than you are, and that might help you to realize that there's something that you need to work on. And friendships provide warm, close, trusting relationships with another person. Everybody needs someone that they feel that they can talk to and be their genuine, authentic selves without fear of being judged or rejected. So if you feel like you need more friends, there are lots of organizations on campus. I highly suggest and recommend getting involved, seeing what's out there, integrating yourself socially on campus, and just putting yourself out there, meeting new people with some common shared interests. Go get you some friends. Okay.